Hello, and today I thought I'd talk a little bit about religion. It's a subject which can be so offensive to so many people, and I guess I'm going to offend a few by just saying right now that I am probably labelled as an atheist. I say probably because I think with all atheists that because we can't actually prove there is no God, or there is any God, then we have to have a little tiny percent of it open as an open mind, so that makes us kind of agnostic. I actually don't believe a Loch Ness monster will ever be found, and even though thousands of people said they've seen it, I think if you drained the huge loch you wouldn't find one. And so I'd have to say that 99.9% of me says there isn't a Loch Ness monster. But that tiny piece of a percent has to remain open because I can't prove it. And that's the kind of how I feel about God, my belief in God. Now, don't take me wrong, I'm not offended by people who have faith. My own mother was deeply deep faith. I mean, she was, put it this way, she was 2 weeks, I think it was, away from signing all the paperwork and all the rest of it to become a nun. Before she met my father, thank goodness that she did meet my father, because I wouldn't be here, would I? And she spent the rest of her life, that was when she was like 20 years old, she spent the rest of her life, until she died in her early 70s, just about 6 years ago, she spent all that time in absolute agony and begging for God to forgive her. And I mean, it wasn't so much towards the end, but certainly in the early days. I always clearly remember that as a child, because she felt that she was being punished, and she had this awful illness. She had colitis of the bowels. She had rheumatoid arthritis so bad that it turned every one of her limbs to jelly. It was awful. Eventually she had her legs removed, but not until she was much later, I think in her 60s. And I kind of give her a new lease of life a little bit, but she spent most of her time rocking herself to sleep, rocking herself in agony, in pain every day. And as a child, I could never understand why any God that she loved so much could ever do that to her. For her, it was punishment. For me, it was just not real, and it couldn't be. And I began very early on to look at science and explaining the reasons why I was here on this earth and why I was a Christian, because I'd been baptized or whatever it is, and I was part of this Church of England numbers, and yet I never chose that. And I guess that's where another doubt for religion comes in, because no matter how devout you are as a person to your particular God, and there are a lot of gods, I think currently, I wouldn't want to be quoted on this as exact, but I mean there are thousands of gods throughout time, but I think there's about 134 at the moment that are active. They're not active, I don't think, but the people are who support them. And of course there are the ones that everybody knows. But the reason that I started to doubt that would happen was because of this. Why was my mother being punished? So once I started to look at science and look at the fact that, people, you would be influenced from where you were. I mean, all it mattered was where you were born, really. If you were born in Saudi Arabia, I guess you'd be a Muslim. You wouldn't be born to be a Christian, would you? There might be some fractions of it, but that's how you'd be born. In some parts of Asia you would have been Buddhist. In parts of India you'd be a Hindu, and basically if you were born in the UK and many parts of America and other places, then you'd be a Christian. It just depends on the faith that you were born into, what your parents were brought up to believe in, and and I understand that. And I also understand that you can get tremendous faith and it could help you. I think a belief in something, if it really helps you, what harm are you doing? My only argument is that there is an awful lot of harm that comes from religion. Nearly all wars seem to be based on religion, and that doesn't matter even about what's going on right now with the horrendous wars, the horrendous terrorist acts and things like that. But if you think all the way down the line, everything that's horrendous seems to have been born almost from religion. I mean, genital mutilation in children, it's all religious backed. I'm sure if you took all religion out of the world completely in one hit, man would still find something to have a war about. But it would be oil, greed. It'll be one day water. But religion plays a huge part in all of this, and I find it completely absurd. I really do. Now, that said, I'm not offended by you and your faith. If you have faith, I think fair play to you. And if it helps you, that's fantastic. I can be friends with Muslims. I could be friends with Christians. Any faith. It makes no odds to me. I don't want anyone to try and save me, and I don't want anyone to think I'm really evil and corrupt because I don't believe in what they believe in. But most of the time I find that just by saying I don't believe, then I'm already offending you, or I'm offending somebody. And I find that strange as well. Someone asked me online the other day, why don't you believe in God? And I said, well, you don't believe in the other 133, so why don't you believe in them? And when they said there was no proof of any of it, then I said, well, that's how I feel. I just don't believe in one more than you. We're actually almost the same. And even that upset that person, because they were a Christian and they believed, most Christians seem to think that you need to be saved in some way, and I don't. So where are your morals from? How do you have your morals without religion? Well, I would say that religion is probably the worst place to take your morals. When you start looking, again, I'll pick on the Christian book because I know more about that than anything else, having been brought up as one. If you look at the Christian values from the Bible, which I see as, at best, an Aesop's Fables book, nothing else. I don't believe in all this virgin birth and talking snakes from the First Testament and all the rest of it, and the Noah's Ark. How could that be real? And, the resurrection, the Annunciation. It's all, to me, absolute, nonsense, and it doesn't belong in the modern age. It really doesn't. It belongs in a backward society where everyone was frightened of everything, and these things could become real to you. It wasn't so many years ago that people were burning perfectly innocent women, only a few hundred years ago, for being witches, and actually I have to say again, religiously based. And so I understand fears and anxieties and the fear of death and the promise of afterlife and all the rest of it. I understand how religion is born and even how it can do some good on the way, but again, it has to be nonsense to me. I just don't, none of it doesn't tally together. It's not real. And you look at other religions in the past, and how much Christianity itself has borrowed from that. The virgin birth. Don't ever create a new religion without including a virgin birth, because nearly all of them have it. Even the three wise men, even, the story of the crucifixions, the resurrection, they're all repeated time and time again as things have borrowed off Christianity. Christianity has borrowed off of other religions. And this is all readable and available to everybody. It's not some sort of, I'm not creating some kind of myth out of this, And so those are the reasons why I don't believe. And certainly it stems from the fact that I watched a woman who was so dear to me and so innocent and so wonderfully a human being who loved everything, who loved nature, who loved other people, who really couldn't see the bad in people, who wanted to laugh when others would cry. She was tortured according to her own beliefs, and how awful was that? And to flip it back to how do you get your morals? Well, I'll talk about myself for a minute. I wake up every morning and I look at this wonderful, wonderful world that we've evolved in, with all the multitudes of different life forms that are part of this wonderful cycle that we live in. And I would hate to hurt any of it. I don't even crush a fly. I'm almost Buddhistic in my attitude, if you like. Not quite. But I love so much about nature and about the world. I love humans, I love the fact that we've evolved into this wonderful biped that through sheer chance that we've become this wonderful thing, and we've been on the planet just seconds really when you think about it. It's nothing, you know, the maximum 300,000 years right down to 100,000. I'm not sure where it fits, somewhere. I don't even think we know properly. And remember, there were 4 different types of humans once, and they were wiped out. They went extinct, as 99.9% of all animal species have ever existed on Earth have gone extinct. Others will follow, maybe us as well, of course. And we almost did. We were down to just a few thousand people before we wandered out of Africa. Now, so this is just amazing. It's amazing. And I love the world. And my morals is that I would never hurt anybody. I'll go out of my way. I mean, I'll always protect my family. I'll always protect myself. But I wouldn't want to hurt people. I want to see people succeed in life. I love it when people are brilliant. I love it when people come up with great ideas. And I love it when people turn poverty around and become successful. I would do anything to help people in that way. I love guiding people. I don't need religion to tell me how to live my life. I live my life through my own morals. I do have some kind of spiritual value, I guess, which is probably something that most atheists wouldn't say, but it's not from some deity in the sky that overlooks me and judges me and tells me if I'm going to go to hell, a bad place because I've done something wrong, or tells me I can go to heaven and watches my every move, and yet doesn't seem to ever respond to anything when really people ask it. But it's not governed by that. It's governed by the fact that I think that there is something that flows through the universe in a way. It's kind of like the spirit in us, if you want. I don't like calling it. I like it to call it life force, really. And sorry, I was moving about that because I had an itchy leg. I love to call it life force. I always think that, you know, maybe every creature is connected in some way and always has been right from the word go. It's almost like the universe is the deity, you know, and we kind of, you know, we're all made of the same stuff, you know, as far as we know, certainly in our own solar systems and things. And the old hippies got it right, didn't they, when they said we're all stardust? We kind of are. And so I kind of have this kind of connection to that. I can't prove that either, of course, or either. I'd make no attempt to. It's just a gut feeling, and you know, just like people have faith, they have it on gut feelings, and I kind of feel that there is something there that we might sort of use our life force gets kind of reincarnated again. But I doubt if, not as us, we don't see it again as that. You know, it could be anything, but I don't want that. Wouldn't be my beliefs in the fact that I stand there and say, you know, this is what you have to believe in, because it's just like a little crazy thought that hits and sits in the back of my mind. You know, just like I like the idea of multiverses. But I only like the idea. I don't really have any proof, nor does anyone else. But in my opinion, there isn't a single God. Gods are man-made. They've always been man-made. There will be others that are man-made in the future, probably. I don't believe religion belongs to the 20th or to our present modern-day times. We're better educated now. You know, we don't believe in all those fantasies. And, you know, we can be great people without religion. That said, if you're religious and you get faith, from your faith you get comfort, then, you know, that's fantastic and I'm happy for you. And if you're a friend of mine, or you become a friend of mine and you are faith driven, that's not to stop us from being friends. I'm not an evil person. You know, I don't dislike you because you believe in something that I don't believe in. What right would I have to do that? You know, you know, that is just my opinion. It just doesn't matter, really. But that's how I am. And I think that by saying that, I will have offended people. Because those, you know, in religion always seem to get offended by that kind of statement. But anyway, I'm happy to talk about this stuff for ages, forever. I could go on for hours and hours and hours. And of course I could defend my stance more in an more aggressive way, but I don't wish to. I just wish to say this is me, and morally I have values, you know, and I just don't need a deity in the sky to tell them to me. So, whatever your beliefs, have a great day, have a great life.